What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? We got a special guest on, Zach Eisen. Is that how you say it, Eisen?
hmm
Yeah. How you doing today?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good. Could be better if the Chiefs won yesterday, but I'm okay. But we can just hop into this. Uh, Brett Veach failed on this wide receiver room. I'm a guy that was really standing up for Brett Veach all of this season. He's been getting the hate all season. Uh, And I've been standing up for him. I've said that he's been doing a good job. I was actually happy with him keeping the wide receiver room cheap. But I think enough is enough. I think I'm gonna hop on the uh, what do you call it? I'm gonna hop on the train and say that Brett Veach failed us at the wide receiver room. This was not the year to go cheap at the wide receiver room. We should have paid Juju Smith-Schuster the money. Uh, Marcus Valdez-Scantling is not doing as good, and we're lucky to have a guy like Rashee Rice here that is making plays. We're lucky to have a player like that. What do you think about the wide receiver room right now?
Yeah, I understand you saying we're lucky to have Rasheed Rice, and I think you have to give Beach credit on that. He picked him, or the front office, whatever you want to contribute to the Rasheed Rice pick. Them as a collective, they took him. Otherwise, yeah, you could definitely say it's a failure. I mean, everyone talked about Sky Moore making a step and making this leap, and I don't know if he even got snaps yesterday. If he did, he didn't do anything. Tony has had his issues, and we knew that coming in with the health and stuff. And he hasn't improved as a route runner or being downfield. And then MVS has just regressed since last year. I think he had his one shining moment in the AFC Championship game where he really stepped up, and I think we can all as Chiefs fans appreciate that. But at this point, he had no yards in the Super Bowl, and then this entire year he's been terrible. So yeah, the wide receiver room is a disaster at this point.
Yeah, and you got a lot of people want to blame that on offensive coordinator Matt Nagy. They want to say that Eric Bieniemy, his departure, what is the reason? And it could be Matt Nagy. It could be, but we have there's a few things that it's really hard to say. There's a few things that is causing all this. You got pretty much a brand new offense. You take out though Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Your offensive line, you got two new tackles that are struggling, and you got the receiver room that is struggling. So you got the whole new offense. You got a new offensive coordinator. You have a new running back coach, a new wide receiver coach, and all of that together. I mean, it's horrible. Greg Lewis, he's a great coach. He went off to the Baltimore Ravens, uh, and I wish he was still here, but he's not. So the matter of fact is, we gotta fix these problems. We've been saying we're going to fix them for weeks now, and nothing's changing. Andy Reid's saying we're getting better, but we're scoring the same amount of points, and we're having to go for it on fourth down each and every game to have a chance of winning it. Nothing's changing in my eyes, other than Rashee Rice is continuing to be good, but we need someone to step up. I don't care at this point. You might as well just let Justin Ross get the reps and play, because at this point, what do you got to lose? He's gonna if he flunks, then that's just like our other receivers. Uh, we actually need to win these last four games, because if not, there's a real chance that the Denver Broncos take this division, and we cannot let that happen. I don't think we get the first round bye anymore. There's no way, but uh, maybe we can go out and sign Jarvis Landry right now. He's a guy that knows how to catch. And I know I don't really care for Jarvis Landry, but we need someone that can catch. What do you think about Jarvis Landry?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he kind of looked washed last year in New Orleans, so I'm not. I mean, it's. I don't know how much worse you can get if you just sign anybody from the street. I know Sean Jackson talked about wanting to play, and he thought he can help, and that would be interesting. But I don't know. It seems like they have an unwillingness to change on who they have in the room. We saw that they made one trade at the deadline, and it was from Cole Hardman, and we had him last year, and we kind of knew what he was. And they still went out to get him. It just feels like that they have kind of been hard-headed with this, where they're we're gonna ride or die with these guys, and right now it's clearly letting them down. And a lot of people are talking about, like you talked about, the coaches staff and all that stuff, and I think the plays itself, maybe they've it's not as good or whatever the play calling we can talk about or whatever. But like at the end of the day, it's Andy Reid's offense. So like yeah, like EB like could be missed for like accountability reasons or a vocal leader stuff like that. But like from like a schematic standpoint, like it's the same offense that was the last 6 years or 5 years of Patrick Mahomes. So like I don't see that much of a difference. Like you can talk about like the coaching staff like with Pinkston and Embry at the. I think Pinkston's been a fine job at running back and they haven't had a fall off. But like at wide receiver, like you're hiring a first time position coach with this young ass group. Excuse me, and like that there's this it's like young and now no one knows what they're supposed to be doing and they don't have experience to call back on where it's like oh like when this happened we have a 10-year veteran to tell them this and teach and help the coach and we don't have that and MVS and Justin Watson feel this veteran guys but when you play as bad as MVS is like who's going to listen to you so it's just a really like sticky situation they put themselves in.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best situation you want to be in. But Wanya Morris, he played his first start yesterday. Not too shabby. There was some plays he got beat, but not too bad. Donovan Smith, not very impressed with him this season. He's done okay, but I was expecting 2021 Tampa Bay Donovan Smith, and this is definitely not 2021 Donovan Smith. Do you think Wanya Morris remains a starter for the rest of the season?
I think if I was in charge, I would keep wanting more to the start of the rest of the year. What Andy Reid does, I don't know because I've seen him. I've seen players fill in for the Chiefs in past years and look like okay, they deserve a shot as in a bigger role once the starter or the presumptive if like it's a position like corner or wide receiver where like there's multiple on the field at once like where you think okay they should get a bigger role and then they go back to being the backup and just come in a few plays. And, with tackle and stuff, they're not rotating tackles. So it's like they're going to probably do what they do with Donovan Smith. So, like, hopefully one is the starter. I think that's better for the run game, especially. And in pass protection, he looked like very fine. I think there was only like 2 plays that you could really knock on him for. And the rest, he was, I guess, you didn't hear about him, which is with the offensive lineman, that's the best part. Like, you don't hear what they're doing. Like, they're doing a good job. So, I would keep Wanya in there. I'm just not sure Andy and the company do.
Yeah, I would definitely keep Wanya in there too. I think he's definitely going to be the starting left tackle next season. But I saw something that said a few days ago that there was a possibility that the Chiefs move Jawan Taylor to left tackle. That ain't happening. I'll tell you this right now. It's not happening. One, you got Wanya Morris. He's going to play left tackle next season. I'm sure of it. But let's move Jawan Taylor over to left tackle when he's struggling doing right tackle. It doesn't make sense. I wouldn't do that. I hope they don't do that. I don't think they'll do it. But Wanya Morris, future left tackle, I'm sure of it. But T. Higgins, free agent, Bengal star. Free agent after the season. We were talking about how the Chiefs receivers are struggling. I know Veach don't like spending money apparently on the wide receivers, but at this point, the man's gonna get fired if he don't, start helping doing something. Listen, we've won 2 Super Bowls. We've gone to the AFC Championship every single year. That is a lot. That's good, and we're very fortunate to see that. But definitely, it wasn't the year to go cheap on the wide receivers. This is a stacked AFC, stacked division, and you need to have stars. In my opinion, I don't think we really miss Tyreek Hill. I like Tyreek Hill, but we don't miss Tyreek Hill. We miss Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju Smith-Schuster is a reliable receiver. Tyreek is good and all. I'm not saying nothing bad about him. If he came back to this team right now, I think our struggles would go away. But I miss Juju Smith-Schuster more than Tyreek Hill. He's cheaper. He's very reliable. And now he's in New England and not doing anything, unfortunately. But the Chiefs need to go out and get a wide receiver in the offseason. I don't care if that's Michael Pittman. I don't care if that's T. Higgins. I don't care if they trade for somebody. They need to, or else, because I think Veach has the rest of next year. And if the receivers are like this next year, I don't know that he's going to have a job as GM in Kansas City anymore. I think he's a good GM, but we need wide receivers. T. Higgins to Kansas City? Do you want to see that?
Yeah, I mean, T. Higgins in Kansas City would be awesome. I'm just not sure if it's going to happen. I think one, the price points are going to be really high, and I don't know if the Bengals are going to tag him and trade him, and I don't think they would trade him to the Chiefs if that happens. So um, that would knock it out. And I know you. I think you hit the nail on the head um, when you talked about how the wide receiver room with there was this narrative that's going around now where it's like they missed Tyreek. Well, it's like, well, did anyone watch last year when they won the Super Bowl? I think they just missed somebody who's a secondary reliable option. And Rashee Rice looks like he could be that guy in the future. But obviously Travis Kelce will be older. But besides the point where it's like Rashee Rice, like right now, he's a very like gadgety, screens, quick hitters, yak guy where he's not winning downfield yet, and that's what they're really lacking is a guy who's going to move the chains on third down, win downfield against man coverage, and they just don't have that. And Juju was that last year, and it doesn't have to be Juju specifically, but like a Juju level player in this room would I think it would look drastically different.
Yeah, I agree. But Jamari Connor, fourth round rookie, first interception yesterday. That was fantastic. And I've been telling people this for a few months now, since I'd say probably August, that I don't think L'Jarius Sneed returns. And the reason why is you look at what Brett Veach is doing, and he is clearly, in my eyes at least, looking for replacements for L'Jarius Sneed. He's drafted Jalen Watson. He's drafted Joshua Williams. He's drafted Trent McDuffie, Chamari Connor, and they're all doing pretty good. L'Jarius Sneed is up for his contract after the season. It's going to be a hefty payday. I would hate to break this defense up because it's so dynamic, but you got to let somebody go. Because in the next few years, you got to pay Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Nick Bolton. There's a lot of guys you got to pay. You got Willie Gay after this season as well. You got to pay. There's a lot of good players you got to pay, and you can't sign them all back. You got to let someone go, and that person I think is L'Jarius Sneed. Veach is showing me that he is trying to replace him, and he's gonna go somewhere else, I think, and get the bag, unless he can come here to Kansas City and take a team-friendly deal, which he might because he's comfortable here in Kansas City. He might want to take a team-friendly deal, but he might not. He's a good player. He might want to get the big bag somewhere else, and another team is going to pay him that, and I don't think it's Kansas City. What do you think?
Yeah, my question would be like, what do you think is fair market value for L'Jarius?
I really can't answer that. It's rough. Like, how much to pay him? You mean?
Mm-hmm. Per year.
Per year. Do you know how much he's making now? Do you know how much he's making now? I don't have this.
I mean, he's on his rookie contract, so it's not
right.
At all like nothing, pretty much. So, but like, I'm just thinking about like the top of this cornerback market makes about 20 a year. The second tier guys get like 15 to 18, stuff like that, and I think he'll probably fall in that second tier range. I think Carlton Davis signed for it was either 14 or 16 a year, and I think that's a fair contract for him. I think I would be willing to pay L'Jarius that money to come back. I think he's played at an exceptionally high level, and a lot of the reason that personally how I feel the defense is working is excellent coverage on the back end, and they're getting a lot of like late sacks and late pressures and downs where Karlaftis and Dana, those guys aren't quick winners. They need to get going, and they don't bend the edge, and they're pocket pushers. So it takes more time for them to sack the quarterback. And when you have great coverage on the back end, that alignment with the pass rush really works well. So personally, I think that the Chiefs should look into keeping L'Jarius Sneed. I'm just not sure, if you want to go next season with Trent McDuffie as your main corner, and I love Trent. I think Trent's one of the best corners in the league. But like your next two corners, and they're probably going to be playing outside, are Watson and Williams. And I don't know if Williams. I mean, Josh hasn't shown enough for me to say that he can be a starting cornerback yet. I think he's a very good depth option, but there's been times where he's really struggled, and Watson's been good, and he's been I think he's very steady, and what you're going to get from him. But I don't know if you want those two guys as your corners, and then Connor as your nickelback, and you're going to go super young again on the DB room.
Yeah, and I would hate for that we go young on the DB room, and that's we get the wide receiver room fixed, and then that happens now where that is an issue. But based on, I'm going to be real with you. I'm not very good when it comes to this contract stuff, but based on what you're saying about Carlton Davis, maybe, I don't know, but tell me if I'm right or wrong here, but maybe like $20 million a year for Legarius. Does that sound like right?
I mean, like if someone pays him, he hits the open market. I think so. I think he's a little bit older because he came out after 4 or 5 years. So I think he's going to be turning 27 this offseason, I believe, and that's pretty old to hit the market on your first contract. So I wonder what it'll be. I don't think he makes 20 because 20 are like the elite guys where you think about like Marshawn Lattimore, Jair Alexander, Jalen Ramsey. Those guys make 20. I think he's probably a step down from that. So I would think like in the 17 range is probably where I see him falling.
Yeah, he's 26 right now, so he's gonna be turning 27. But yeah, I want Legarius Sneed back in Kansas City, and like I said, he might take a team-friendly deal, but I don't. In my eyes, right now, I don't think Veach pays him unless it's a team-friendly deal, just because he's showing me that they are trying to replace him. So we'll see with that. But offensive coordinator Matt Nagy, obviously not. Well, I can't say we can't really say we don't know if he's doing good. We don't know who's really calling the offensive calls. This was a big debate with when Eric Bieniemy was here. When the Chiefs' offense was struggling, Eric Bieniemy was getting the hate, and when it was good, Andy Reid was getting the love. So this is Andy Reid's offense, so I'm sure he's calling at least 90, 85% of these plays. But I don't know where you put this blame on the offense. You got to put it on the receivers, but the receivers are getting coached too. So it falls on a coach as well. The receivers are not doing good, but there is a coach that something's not clicking here. And is that Eric Bieniemy? Is that wide receiver coach Connor Embry? Is that Andy Reid? I doubt it. It's not Andy Reid. I highly doubt it's Andy Reid. Matt Nagy's doing an okay job. That's what I'm gonna say right now, because he's doing an okay job, because I don't think he's calling more than 10% of the Chiefs' plays on offense. What do you think about Matt Nagy's doing so far?
Yeah, I mean, like I think Nagy's fine. I think Nagy's more of just there as the OC. He has the title, and he does what Andy kind of lays out for him, and he helps with game planning, and he does obviously all the stuff the coaches do. But I think it's always going to be 51-49 Andy. And you talk about the struggles, and there has to be a blame for someone. I just think it's the wide receiver position, and I think it goes back to the coach as well, where you have a young coach who, I don't know, hasn't probably been particularly good. If you look, I mean, they're making the same mistakes over and over and over, right? And it's like, these are, you would think they're correctable. Like you run the right route, right? You understand how to read coverages. Like, I mean, I get drops happen, and like Tony yesterday, the penalty, like those stuff, like those are just mental errors on the player. But like stuff like continuously running the wrong stuff and keeping them out there, that's on the coaches. And at some point, like someone needs to be held accountable. And I think it should be in the offseason, the wide receiver coach probably has to go. He has to get an experienced guy in there, because even you're probably going to draft a rookie early, probably first round, and that guy's going to need someone to learn from. And if it's the same wide receiver coach that's failed to develop Tony and Sky Moore, and hasn't Rasheed hasn't become this downfield threat yet, how do you think the new wide receiver is going to fare with that coach? And I just don't know if it's totally fair to put it all on him, but like he definitely needs to hold his end of the blame. And if he has to go and that makes the room better, that's better for the Chiefs.
I'll tell you what, Brett Veach better not draft another pass rusher. Getting George Karlaftis was good. Getting Felix Anudike-Uzomah, okay, I wanted a wide receiver, but okay, he better not do that the third year in a row. He better go up and trade up for a wide receiver. I want Rome Odunze, or however you say his name.
Rome Odunze.
Yeah, I want him. We better trade. We're gonna have to trade up for him.
Yeah, you would have to, for sure. I mean, he's gonna go
trade up.
Top 15, top 10, maybe. I mean, he's incredible. I think the entire wide receiver class is stacked. talk about Rome. Malik Neighbors is also really good, and there's other first rounders. So I wonder what they'll do. I think I agree with you that they probably have to take a wide receiver. The only qualm I'll see in that is that if Chris Jones walks or they tag and trade him or whatever happens with him, I just don't know if they're gonna say, okay, they might take a defensive tackle early. If they sign a veteran and they take a defensive tackle, who knows? But yeah, that's my only pushback. I think you have to go wide receiver, trade up or whatever. I mean, at this point, like I understand you only have 6 picks, and there's reasons for that, and we don't have to get into all that stuff. But now, like use that capital and move up for a guy, and get your guy that's going to be here for 10 years with Mahomes, right? If you get Rome, Odunze, like I can bet like he'll be here for 10 years and he'll be a superstar, for those 10 years, right? So, it'll be interesting to follow what happens, and obviously free agency will change some things in that aspect, but yeah, I think they definitely need to get their guy.
Yeah, if I tell you what, if Veach drafts another pass rusher, I will start my own campaign that they need to fire him because I'm already not very happy with him the last few weeks, and he better not push it. But the Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid may get fined due to, I guess, because they were questioning the ref's decision. I think they said the integrity of the ref, something like that, because of the call. Mahomes went off on the sideline. Andy Reid had a press conference at the end of the game that he should have got a warning, or usually gets a warning. I don't think the NFL should fine him because should fine either of them. Andy Reid didn't do anything. Him saying that he gets a warning, usually, not a reason to fine. Patrick, on the other hand, is a little more complicated. He was yelling at the refs. He went over at the sidelines, slammed his helmet on the ground. I still don't think you should fine him, though, because last 5 years I've watched Tom Brady until he retired a few years back, but and he slammed his helmet every time he lost. He slammed the helmet, the helmet and the tablet every time he lost. And I don't remember ever seeing Tom Brady getting fined. So if you don't find Tom Brady, don't find Patrick Mahomes because there's no difference. And this is Mahomes' first time doing that. Tom Brady has done that millions of times. So Mahomes went off on the refs. I don't blame him one bit. He's frustrated. He's held it back for all these weeks now since the Detroit game. He knows the refs are screwing us over. And then you got the receivers on top of it that don't know how to catch. All of that goes together with the loss. He's going to go off. I don't blame him one bit. I think I would do the same thing that he did in that situation. I've never seen Patrick do that before, but again, that stuff happens when you're that angry. Do you think he should get a fine or suspension? I don't think he should get either.
I mean, suspension would be crazy. If there's a suspension, we should riot
Yes.
as Chiefs fans. But going to this fine, I mean, like, look, they fine people for the littlest things in the NFL. So, like, if he gets fined, like, it's not going to be an outrage thing, like, whatever. But, like, at some point, like, when you talk about, like, the refs and stuff, like, who's going to hold the refs accountable? Right? Like all these players get fined, they get suspended, all this stuff. And like, some of them I agree with, some of them, are a little soft, like when they have, wardrobe stuffs and they taunting, like, I don't know why that's a fine, but, like the refs, like they just continuously suck. And it's not just with the Chiefs games, it's not just for the Chiefs or against the Chiefs, it's for everybody and against everybody. Right. So like, and nobody ever holds them accountable. And like, I've always thought like there should be, a grading scale, and you have to, you don't get paid that week if you don't work it. Like, there's like 20 crews for 16 games, and they pick the 16 best, and like that's how it works, right? Like you have to be held accountable. And these refs are just never been held accountable, and they can continuously make these mistakes, and there's no correcting it. And especially in season, like they're not going to get better, like, unfortunately. And and the Chiefs no longer have that, superpower of like margin of error where it's like, okay, the ref screwed us, and like the Tony call, like that didn't matter. Like Tony was offside. Like we can agree, and I think we all seen like Tony was offside, and they made the right call there. But like, when they rip off Patrick's helmet, or
Von Miller was offsides.
Yeah, Von Miller's offsides, or when on the Josh Allen play that he made a great play on, like the guy dropped the ball and they call it a fumble, catch and fumble. And that he just dropped it. Like that was not a catch, right? So like there's other stuff like that where like we should be more upset about, but we ignore it because of this one instance. And when Patrick goes off, like I think like genuinely in his mind, he thought Tony was probably onside during that play and he was just upset and whatever. But like I don't know if it was much like anger towards the refs as just he released everything that was like building up from the season where like he's this continuously fighting against the defense and his wide receivers, right? He's playing against two opponents every game, and it's just at some point there's a breaking point where okay, the wide receivers like like I don't know, like Tony hasn't screwed up necessarily since like week 1, since that disaster game he had, but like it's just like now, like, Sky Moore had games where he messed up, MVS messes up, all these guys just continuously messing up. It just broke Mahomes to the point where he got upset at the ref because it was easier to lash out at the ref than, yell at all his receivers. So I don't blame Mahomes for doing it. I think, the call was right. So like, he probably, you would say like he was wrong for doing it because like wrong in his back, what was backing him up because the call was right. But like, in general, like it was more about anger around the surroundings for him than actually what was called in the moment.
Yeah, I've been calling out Roger Goodell and the refs for the last, I'd say, 2 weeks in my videos because they're doing horrible. The first half of the season, we have gotten calls that have favored us. I'm not, as a Chiefs fan, I have to be real. There's a lot of Chiefs fans that are, bandwagon and just they think the calls that were made in the first half of the season were good. I think as real Chiefs fans, we can agree last week that when they called the flag for against the Packers for was it unnecessary roughness, Mahomes
Yeah,
was
on the
in bounds.
sideline, that was
That
clean.
was
That was not.
a bad call.
Yeah, and then
And
I mean they did a makeup call with the pass interference. They didn't call it on him, and
and
then
then we
they
get
said,
screwed because they didn't call the pass interference when the guy
yeah,
jumps on Marcus Valdez-Scantling.
mm-hmm.
So that was a bad call. That helped us. And then there was another bad call that screwed us.
I mean
So
it's crazy because I think the refs have kind of unfortunately been a story of this season, and it's kind of started in week 1 when after the game, Andy Reid was like at the press conference the next day or whatever, and he's like, yeah, like they are picking on Jawan Taylor and stuff like that for the alignment stuff, and like Chris Collinsworth, because I've had my going back and forth with people and talking about like they had Aiden Hutchinson's mom and dad mic'd up at the game. Do you think they wanted him to get bodied by Jawan Taylor? No, Chris Collinsworth was like, oh no, this was happening and this was happening. No, what happened was the entire league for 3-4 years was doing this stuff. And yeah, probably Jawan should fix his alignment. But like the false starting in quotes, I guess, that stuff, like Lane Johnson still does it and doesn't get called. And other like the Bills were doing it yesterday and doesn't get called, right? So it's like when you're picking on guys like that, that's, and I think that's part of the reason, like personally, like why Jawan hasn't played up to his contract or the standard that I think he could play is like there's a little mental lapse where he's like, okay, like I have to get set in this position, then I have to make sure I'm on time in the snap, and there's just too much thinking with him, right? Where hopefully we get through this season, whatever, hopefully they win the Super Bowl still, but like in the off season, like it gives him a debrief to like sit back and then reset his mind, and hopefully comes back better, throughout the next season. But like just going back to that point where it's like Andy Reid was upset since day 1 about the Chris Collinsworth, and then telling the refs and all these people kind of like getting on Jawan Taylor for doing something that's very, very common around the league, and you can look at hundreds and hundreds of examples, and it just seemed like it was being picked on one guy, and it stopped for a while, and then now it's kind of picking back up. So it's just frustrating to say the least. And I'm not saying every call's been against the Chiefs, because there have been a lot that you were right, like the personal foul against on Mahomes, like that was not a personal foul, and so there have been a few that's gone our way, and it's just frustrating that it's constantly been a storyline, no matter what. Either way, it's going for us or against. Like even think back, like when we won the Super Bowl, right? Like that's a hold, but now that they have to talk about the refs, like, oh, is that holding and stuff like that? It's like, no, it's a hold, but like because the refs have been so bad for so long, like it just always becomes the head of the storyline, and I don't think that's what fans want, players want, that league wants. It's disappointing.
yeah, I mean, it's terrible. You got the refs really got to stay out If there's something they really see, and I'm not saying they can't call flags because they're there for a reason, but they're getting too involved now. They're being very nosy in every single play, and they really need to just calm down. They need to throw the flags when it's very obvious, and if they don't know, they need to review it instead of just throwing flags every single play because we lost last week, and if they would have threw that flag for Marcus Valdez-Scantling, we would have gone all the way down there and possibly scored. If
Yeah.
Tony wouldn't have gone off sides, we would have won the game probably, unless the Bills go down there and do a 13-second revenge to us. But there's these little mistakes that are killing us. They're so small. They're not huge mistakes. They're little mistakes. Line up right. Quit being so fast when the ball snapped, Jawan Taylor. Catch the ball. It's easy fixes. Well, they're easier fixes than other teams' problems, but we have to get them done within the next, I'd say, 2 games. Because I'll tell you this right now, we're not winning the Super Bowl if we play like this. We'll win the wild card. We might get knocked out in the divisional. We cannot play like this in the playoffs. We'll get slaughtered. That's just the matter of the fact. So penalties and drops. This is what I've been saying for a whole month now. That's the Chiefs' problem. Penalties, drops, and now I'm adding refs, which is, I guess, in penalties. But we got to play better. We have to try and do our best so the refs stay out of this. And hopefully we can get the rhythm just in time for the playoffs, because playoff time is in about a month. So we have to get this stuff rocking and rolling. And hopefully we can go to the Super Bowl and win it, because the Bills, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. If they do, I think we might be able to beat them. The Bengals are not going to make the playoffs. The Jaguars, they're going to. These teams that are making the playoffs in the AFC are not as tough as last year. The Bills probably aren't going to make it. The Bills probably aren't going to make it, and the Bengals aren't going to make it. Those are the 2 teams that the Chiefs that was in the way of the Chiefs. The Jaguars, we've proven to beat the Jaguars. I'm not saying that they can't beat us again, but we know them. I'm sure we can beat the Jaguars. And I think if we just clean up these little mistakes, it's a wide open path for us to win and repeat as Super Bowl champions. So with that being said, any final comments?
I mean, no, I just thought you summed it up well there. I think the AFC there's no team I'm afraid of. I think that matches up well again. I think the Chiefs, are the only way. Like it's easy to say because we've seen it so much with like the penalty and drops and all that stuff. Like they're only killing themselves. But like seriously, like if that stuff gets cleaned up, like then I don't think anyone in the AFC really scares me. I think like with Mahomes and this defense, and you make enough plays on offense, like that's probably going to win you in the AFC. And you'll when you get to the NFC, it's a 1 game sample, and you don't know who you're going to play and how. Andy Reid in 1 game plan. Like I'll take Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, but like at the same time, like if the drops and penalties keep getting in the way of this stuff, and they're not going to get there even. So it's just like it's frustrating because we see this opportunity where it's like, okay, like our 2 biggest competitors for the last, I guess, 4 years now, 3 years maybe, are down and stuff, and like we're not taking advantage of it. And I think Baltimore like is the top seed right now, and Miami's 2, and we already beat Miami, and I don't think I don't know if I trust them, and I don't trust Baltimore in the playoffs and stuff like that, where it's just like, it's frustrating where like if you had, we talked about Juju earlier, if you had a Juju type receiver, I think we're runaway favorites in the AFC, and it's just so much stuff that's kind of killed us throughout the year that's putting us in this position where we're almost fighting for, um, our lives. I mean, I don't know. Like if Denver passed, I mean, I don't think they're going to lose another game this year because the teams that we have left on the schedule aren't very good. So I think they'll end 12-5 and win the division. But like if they drop another game and somehow Denver jumps them and they're fighting the wild card stuff now, it's like just I mean, this is crazy that they can even be in this position.
Yeah. Well, we just matter of fact is penalties and drops. We have to stop it. And but I'm not scared of anybody in the playoffs. The reason why is until a team can prove to beat us, then I'll worry about them. Until then, I think we're gonna win the Super Bowl. Until a team can prove it to me, oh, the Ravens beat us in the playoffs. Oh, the Bills beat us in the playoffs. Then I'll worry next year. But no, not right now. Lamar Jackson's 1-3 in the playoffs. I don't think he's going to do anything. I think he might win the wild card and then be knocked out in the divisional. He might not even win the wild card. He's not good in the playoffs. Josh Allen, if he makes the playoffs, he's not very good in the moments where he needs to perform. The Bengals aren't going to make the playoffs. The Jaguars, they're good. They have a good coach. T-Law's good. But, again, we beat them in the playoffs. I'm not scared of them. So until a team can beat us in the playoffs, I think we're winning the Super Bowl, and that's just that. But with that being said, thank you, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And any last things? Any last things?
No, I appreciate you having me on.
Okay, peace out, everybody.